Hello and welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host, Trent Clark. Welcome on this beautiful week as we get going into spring. Super exciting Winners Find a Way show as we go. You Andy?
Hi, Trent. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Super happy to be here. Yeah, really just really happy to kind of share our story and kind of where I come from and what we're doing for Team USA.
Yeah, going to be super fun to join Andy. This is a little rare air as we talk to some Olympian athletes here, and it's another big year as we go into the Olympic season. So always matters. I caught Andy here in a off season kind of thing, which is pretty cool. Here on the Winners Find a Way show, I am your host Trent Clark. I'm the CEO of Leadership Serial Entrepreneur. Own a lot of different companies and an entrepreneur organization member. Wrote a book, Leading Winning Teams. Got that right here. Today, Leading Winning Teams is my book. You can buy that anywhere, published by Wiley Publishing. And of course, most people know me because I spent over 13 years in professional baseball coaching in 3 World Series. So I am super excited for everyone to be on the Winners Find a Way show as we talk to the 1% of people doing something special, unique in this world. And Andy is no different. Andy, a former college athlete, has transitioned into the skeleton world, which is going to be super awesome. We're going to dive into that. And an Idaho kid, man. Andy grew up in Pocatello. Tell us a little bit about childhood in Idaho growing up.
Yeah, childhood in Pocatello, Idaho, and for a lot of people that don't know, Idaho, very rural state, very limited population. I think we just barely cracked 2 million people in the last couple of years. But it's wonderful. My town, we have about 50,000 people, and it's nice. You know everyone. It's a safe community. It's a great place to raise a family, honestly. The same friends you have in Little League and elementary school, the same ones you grow up with through middle school and high school and into your adult life. And so you have memories that stretch decades. And it's people you can really rely on. And so that is one of the coolest aspects about growing up in a small town. And with my town specifically, like we are 11 miles long, so it's not big at all. It's
Yeah.
5 minutes east or west, and you're in the mountains with no cell service. It's fantastic. But on the flip side to that, within 2 hours to 3 hours, you're either in Salt Lake City or Boise, so you're not more than a couple hours away from a major city, and then you can experience all the city life and stuff like that if that's something you're into. And then you come back right here, and it's small town living, and just enjoying the community and really thanking the community for helping build you up to who you are.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful spot. Love Idaho. And I mean, when you talk about the 2 million, I mean, I think the bulk of the population is centered in Boise, right? I mean, yeah, this
Oh,
this
yeah.
state is pretty large. I mean, it's not a small state in any way from a landmass.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a very cool spot. I like that about, when Phoenix was a small town, that was a little while ago, right?
Mhm.
Because I think they're up over 4 million now. I really like the idea that Phoenix was so cool that you were 4 hours, 5 hours over to San Diego, 5 hours to LA,
Mhm.
3 hours to Las Vegas, up into the Colorado mountains in 6 or 7 hours. It's kind of like a centered, neutral place. And you could be in Mexico, right, in like 3 hours, right? And so it
Mhm.
was like all sorts of different centers. So sometimes being in these towns where you're centered around different topographies and different areas in the big cities, not too far away, just hold a special place because the most everything that you need is centered in town. But hey, if you want to go to the other extreme, see a
Mhm.
little bit more, you've got that. And Pocatello is a college town with Idaho State.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the cool things about here is even though we're a small community, we host, like you said, call or Idaho State University, which is a Division I school. We compete in the FCS and the Big Sky Conference. And that's a really big deal for the FCS. It usually does really well in the playoffs between football and basketball, volleyball. So it's not something to be slept on with these small town, big universities that go on around here.
Yeah. So let's go into Pocatello. I mean, you're a college football player at Idaho State. Head off to school there. Originally thinking maybe go to a smaller school, do that thing, and decide like, hey, want to come home, be at Idaho State, and you attempt a walk on at Idaho State. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah. So originally coming out of high school, this is kind of before recruiting was a big deal, and there was a lot of social media to really amplify your highlights and spread them out there and everything. And so, not really knowing how to go about that, not having a great mentor about what I need to do and kind of showcase myself that way. Had a couple Division III school offers. I took the best one, in my opinion, that I thought going out of high school. Went to a little school in Illinois. I did that for 3 weeks, and I quickly learned that this was not the environment that was going to be great for me. So I actually withdrew the second day of class. I flew home, started working 3 jobs that fall, started my academic career at Idaho State University in the spring. And at that point, I'd lost hope for anything athletic or anything football wise, I should say. Just thinking, I had my shot. I missed it. It's kind of over. One of my friends told me about they're going to walk on for Idaho State University. I told him I don't think that's a real thing because I had never heard of it.
Yeah, right.
And I was sure, dude, if you get me in contact with the right people, like I'll show up with you. So sure enough, he got me in contact with Coach Troxel and Coach Cooper, the coaches at the time running our pro day essentially, or walk on tryouts. And I get the information. I show up. It's only a couple of tests. We were going to do 240-yard dashes, 2 short shuttles, bench press at 225 for reps, and a vertical test. Kind of similar to what they do for the big pro day
Yep,
for
yep,
everyone that you can tune into and watch, right?
yeah.
And that day came. I was ready for. I was as ready as my body could be. Um, I had a pretty good 40 times, had pretty good short shuttle times. I knew my strength wasn't where, in my mind, it should be for a Division I program for the bench press. I ended up only getting 3 on the bench press, and I was like, that's not. I was like, that's a big red flag, in my own opinion. But I knew my vertical jump would end up being the counter to that. At least they could at least see I have power, and it just needs to be developed into different areas of my body. But then they informed us that they weren't going to do the vertical jump, and I was like, all right, well, this was just a fun afternoon. And they said, yeah, please send over your highlight tape and we'll give you a call back. I was like, cool. I didn't really tell anybody about it. Didn't want to get anybody's hopes up, especially mine. And I sent my highlight tape to them. And the next day I ended up getting a call and they said, hey, we'd love to have you out, kind of see what happens this spring and we'll move forward after that. And I was the only one out of 20 or so athletes that ended up getting that call and took that moment and ran with it and ended up playing for 4 years, became a starter on special teams, earned a scholarship, lots of academic and athletic accolades, took me all the way to the FCS Daytona Bowl, kind of like an all-star game, and never looked back after that day.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I think it's there's so many good stories. I went to school at the University of Toledo, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, Matt Eberflus was recently the head coach of the Bears up until a couple years ago. Matt was a walk-on at the University of Toledo, and this coach from the Cleveland Browns came in one year, guy named Nick Saban, took over the head coaching job for Toledo and named this former walk-on the team captain.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, this kid's life changed like immediately from that. Like, and he was a kid, a local kid, gone good, and he was like, I think I can play at this Division I level when everyone else was telling him, maybe you stay at D2, day 3. And he was like, he wanted to play for his hometown team and be in the Glass Bowl, which is, so famous to Owens Corning there in Toledo,
Mm-hmm.
Ohio. And it was just a fabulous story of a kid who just gave it everything he had and was a fabulous collegiate player. So, and there's so many stories of athletes that get passed over in high school because we all don't develop at the same speed, right? Like, so
For
there's
sure.
a ton of players. I recall another great story of a major leaguer who played a ton of years, and I remember seeing him later after winning or after going to his second or third World Series and winning one with the Chicago Cubs. And I asked him about that, and I said, "Man, you played at such a small school in college." He goes, when I entered college, he goes, when I entered high school, I was 5'2", 110 pounds. I was like, wow, like, no one's really thinking like, oh, what a great athlete we have here, right? But
Mm-hmm.
here he is now after his freshman year in college, he was 6'2", 195. So it
Wow,
was like,
that's
man,
awesome.
Yeah, so, you leave high school and he's like, probably I finished high school at, I don't know, maybe 5'7", 145, working my tail off, and then all of a sudden I shot up these extra,
Yeah.
almost 6, 7 inches between his senior year in high school and until through his
Hmm.
freshman year. And, now, what I love about this is, and I think very similar to you, Andy, he had small man's work ethic, right? Like, and when
Hmm.
you're little, like, I'm small too. So like you learn to work, you learn to maximize every
Oh yeah.
opportunity to get ahead. And then all of a sudden the body plays in and like, oh, you're like everybody else at this level, but I know how to work. And a
Yeah.
lot of the people like, oh, I've always been bigger and stronger than everybody. So, when it comes time to putting in hard reps and doing extra work, they're like, oh, I've never had to do that. And I don't need to do that.
Hmm.
And it's like, well, at this level, you're going to probably have to do the extra work, right? Go the extra
Hmm.
mile. And a lot of folks,
Yeah.
unfortunately, don't even know what that looks like. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially like talking about the college aspect wise, like I look back on it now and I played at 5'7", 165. Like in all terms for a Division I program, that's a tiny guy.
Yeah, that's
Um,
about as small as you get. Yeah.
yeah, and so I'm working my tail off. I'm eating everything I can from breakfast to nighttime, trying to gain weight. But just with how busy we are with academics, school, meetings, practice, and repeating it, uh, it's hard to put the weight on and then keep it there. And so you really do have to find like what are those extra times that I can get better when my reps are called. Like I have to be on all the time. I can't take a play off because I'm the super talented guy. If I take a play off, that might be the end of my season. It's like, yo, we actually don't need this guy. We can go recruit this other guy and fill this void, right? So kind of having that in the back of my mind all the time of like any day could be, or any season, I guess I should say, could be it for you. And then transitioning that over to what I do now for Skeleton and Team USA, and seeing the dudes who are at the very top and some of the people I'm trying to compete with here in the middle, uh, and then some of the people I've surpassed, it's like I know what it took to get past those guys. I'm getting a feel for who I'm competing against now, and I'm seeing, all right, that's what these guys are doing. I now
Mhm.
know how much more it's going to take to get above those guys, and I'm willing to put in all the extra hours. I'm not going out to party. I'm not going to do any extra excursions. I'm staying here. I'm taking care of my body. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get past those people that are above me. Uh, just so I can have my opportunity at the highest level possible when my time's called.
That is it's a huge feather in your cap to understand the workload. And it's also what I don't think people always understand is the positioning for opportunity, being ready for what's next. And you kind of talked about that in your pro day, like, hey, I'm a vertical jump champion. Like I know what my superpowers are, right? And
Hmm.
I've got to lean into that because I'm not going to be like turning heads on, the 225 for reps, right?
Yeah.
like it's like, hey
Yeah.
man, I'm 5'6", 165. You watch these guys 300 pounds and they're carrying this 25, like it
Like a
looks like a
suitcase. Yeah.
45-pound barbell. You're like, dang, dude, like
Yeah.
I that's how it looks like for me when I don't have any weight on, and they got 4 plates.
Right. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's
Yeah. And
funny to watch it, man. They're different strokes, right?
yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the cool things you're talking about, like opportunity and leaning into your strengths. And one of the things that came to my mind during kind of this time and a little bit afterwards, Gary Vee talked about it. He says, it's good to know what your weaknesses are. Yeah, I knew at that time what it was. But if you know
Yeah,
what your strengths are, double and triple down on those uh,
yeah.
and
It's
really be good at that.
Yeah, it's really the secret of pro athletics, right? And I don't think enough people talk about it, is the fact that and probably the Olympics too, Andy. And I haven't spent a lot of time in the Olympic Village, so I'm not going to speak to that like I know. But um, what I like to call it the shampoo treatment, like wash, rinse, repeat,
Mhm.
right? Because what pro athletes do is they know exactly what they do better than everybody else. And like, hey, Andy, I'm gonna keep doing this against you until you stop me. And
Yeah.
like you gotta like, hey, prove you can stop me because I'm just gonna keep going at my strengths, kind of cover my weaknesses for sure. But like I'm
Mhm.
gonna keep going. And it's guys like you and I who are always like, where's the chink in the armor? Like I see
Yeah.
all the strengths of this opponent. where's the area where I can, expose maybe some underbelly, some weak side here.
Mm,
And so, man, I think that it's fun to kind of go through it and figure out. I'm always watching as the folks who really get that, who really understand. Like my
mhm.
superpower is better than your superpower, right? And like
Yeah.
until you have that ability. So let's talk a little
Mhm.
bit about you your superpower, quick, strong, burst of energy. How in the world? I mean, now listen, it's not uncommon bobsled,
Mhm.
skeleton, like Idaho, the mountains. Like, you've heard of it, right? Like you've been to ski resorts,
Yeah.
you've seen ski hills, you've watched the Olympics. This isn't something I've never heard of, but this is also something like you haven't been doing since you're 8 years old. Is that fair?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of the interesting part about like our world between bobsled and skeleton, and I guess Team USA as a whole, right? We're in our values. What do? We play when we're kids. We play soccer, baseball, football, basketball, all those traditional American sports, right?
Yeah.
And we do that through elementary, middle school, high school, and college for those of us to get the opportunity. And then after that, the ceiling is either there's basically the NFL, there's football, basketball, soccer,
Yeah.
and baseball, right? Like, and then it's
Millions
a
of dollars in
very
those. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, right. And then the pool just gets tinier and tinier and tinier. But
Yeah.
we still produce high quality, top tier athletes. But then they get almost like the peak of their athletic career, and it just caps. And then there's what do we do now? And so you're almost at a loss as an athlete of like what is next, because this is such a niche sport and it's not talked about a lot. Not all the colleges or universities around the USA are in connection with when tryouts and combines and stuff are. And so when you do hear about these opportunities, you're like, one, is this real?
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I was 100% convinced that to be an Olympian or go down the Olympic path, your mom and your dad were Olympians, and then they got together, and then they had you, and you were basically bred to do this your whole life. Like that was
Yeah.
the thought process that I've been on my whole life. Uh, but then you find out, my friend actually coined this term, and I love it. Call ourselves secondhand athletes.
Yeah.
We are finding a new life in this niche sport where we don't start it till we're 22, 23 years old, kind of coming out
Yeah.
of college, understanding that that's what 4 years of hard work looks like. Here's what, if you've got the mentality to kind of go down this route for another 4 years to compete against the best of the best for what we have, to make a team to represent the red, white, and blue in the games. Now you're looking at your professional opportunity uh, to do something athletic, right? It might not be soccer, it might not be football, basketball, baseball, but it's the next level of professional sports if this is what you're looking to do.
Yeah, and I love a guy, if you've ever heard of a great podcast called The School of Greatness, Lewis
Mm-hmm.
Howes is a classic in this, right? This secondhand athlete. Lewis was a collegiate football player, much like yourself, wanting to go on. Can I play in the league? Probably not. Canada gives him a solid look. He's a pretty big wide out receiver, I think, is where his role was, if I remember correctly. But it wasn't going to be. And so he
Mm-hmm.
starts going, man, I want to keep competing. I want to go do some stuff. He ends up being on like the USA handball team, right? Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
he ends up playing in the Olympics and like it's crazy. Like, and I'm like going, here's a sport I never grew up playing in my life, right? Like this is
Mm-hmm.
a deal. And I've seen this now a couple different areas, right? I know like pickleball is taken on a whole nother level for athletes, right? Like
Yeah.
because people love it. And, all of a sudden, if you're athletic, you've got some ability to get in there and play, right? And then,
Mm-hmm.
when I was coming out and as a young strength coach in professional baseball, I watched the former Washington Redskins coach,
Mm-hmm.
right, who got into NASCAR and everything else, Joe Gibbs.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe Gibbs was looking at his team in NASCAR, and he's like, "Hey, I want these athletes in the pits. Like I've coached all these athletes." So he went into the Division I, Division II athletic world and started looking at combine numbers for really good athletes that weren't very good football players.
Mm-hmm.
And went, hey, listen, I bet you could change tires and carry a 50 drum of oil faster than garbage, like, and they were like, yeah, I can carry some oil. And he's like, hey, you want to go on tour traveling with our NASCAR team and running and working in the pits as a team, because you understand teamwork and what that's about and what us 11 guys all got to do for this play to make a successful play, right? And so, he changed the game in NASCAR by taking the secondhand athletes, right? And taking these on, because you're not a superstar in one of the big four, right? So it's a really cool conceptually. And what's staggering is our Olympians are really good, worldwide, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're really good. And so, and here's your sport, which is very unique, because I know many, many moons ago, a lot of attention got put on the skeleton and bobsled USA team, because another famous athlete, right, went in and got into bobsled. You want to talk about how that changed some things for USA?
Yeah, I mean, getting the big name, like you're going to say, like Herschel Walker, like that kind of put us back on the map in a sense, right? Like, we've been doing really good, but then to get some more media recognition, like, oh, this exists. This is another outlet for, like you're saying, big, strong athletes who you're not going to make that threshold to play at that top level, but you're going to be a top dog over here. You want to, and obviously Herschel Walker was top dog over here too, but like to come over here and be like, hey, you can be the guy over here. And you're going to have the same type of competition, because we're always going to keep recruiting the top dogs to make you better. And if they're better, they're going to be better than you. But now you're chasing greatness. And that's the one thing I love about Team USA and the culture we're building now is I'm here to make sure you do your best. And I expect the same coming from you towards me. At the end of the day, yes, I hope I'm on top of the podium, obviously. But if I'm sharing the podium first, second, third with my teammates and it's USA 1, 2, 3, that's all I care about. I'm going to be just as happy for my teammates on top as I would be for myself, because I think the only way to get better is to push everybody to the top. And that way you can only be happy about your performance and then more excited for your teammates when they do just as well or better.
Yeah, I was, this is something that really, I really loved about training and everything else, was the performance of the human body. And long before there was Lululemon, right, and everything else, people in skeleton and bobsled, I mean, these are these tight outfits, like body compressing, and like you see all the muscles just bulging through these people, right? They are fit, mad fit, right? And I remember, when Herschel put this thing on, you were like, holy crap. Like, I used to have this poster when I was in high school of Herschel Walker when he was running track at Georgia, and he had those dolphin shorts on and a little tank top, and he was running a 4x100 relay, right? And he's running down the track, muscles are everywhere, right? And the poster below said, would you tackle this man? And it was like,
oh yeah,
no way I'm tackling that guy. Like, he looks like a monster, like, it's like, guys like us, we don't want to step in front of that freight train, right? It's like, holy crap. So it was amazing. And then, fast forward to the end of his career, but he's still hugely fit. He joins the bobsled. And so you see this, like, these athletes and the form and fitness that goes into that. And it's always one of the go-tos for me to show people the pain of discipline. Like, hey, you too can look like this, but the discipline of looking like this is a ton, right? You don't just wake up and go, oh, I don't know if you know or not, I fill out my skeleton, my my uniform. Like, no, you are going to work, right? And one of the things about this work, Andy, that probably most people don't know is that a lot of our Olympians are self-funded. They are funding their training. This is not a oh, hey, you're on the Olympic team, here's your $100,000 check, Andy, to make sure all your nutrition is set. You got all these things. We have some support and assistance, but we don't have the funding, right? So I just want to make our audience known as you listen to an Andy Whittier out there who's educating us all on our Olympics and what we're getting all fired up about, the upcoming Winter Olympics, where hopefully Andy will be competing. He's got his project pushttogold.com as well as andywhittier.com, where anyone can make a donation to Andy and his training and his development as he gets to spend this last month here in Pocatello, and then it's off to Lake Placid again. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's super accurate, and it's something kind of going back to the small town community. When I first got into this, I told the credit union I was working for, I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go do this. You guys support me?" And they're like, "Yeah, go work remote." And then I just kept building on it and getting better. I made the full-time commitment to move out to New York last year, and that required. I was lucky enough to get housing through my qualifications and everything at our training center in Lake Placid, but that still doesn't cover the season cost, right? And so I had Lookout Credit Union back home sponsor me, Cole Chevrolet, Hooligans Bar and Grill, and then Luco Prints are my big sponsors that helped me get through this last season. And without that, I wouldn't have been able to do the type of job and win the medals and the overall trophy that I did this year if it wasn't for those guys. Because it allowed me to focus 100% of my time between sliding, lifting, and recovery, mind runs, and the training and extra discipline that it took to get to that level. And I know my other teammates have kind of their own local personal sponsors as well. And
Yep.
that's kind of the big thing that helps us is people that are bought into our stories and want to help us and help us get to the promised land so we can take them up there as well. That's the difference between us and some other nations where they're funded with their taxpayers' money and everything. We are, for a lack of better words, just that homegrown athlete in the USA where it's like you're going to do this because you love the sport and you're going to do it because your heart's in it and you're not doing it for the money.
Well, I love that. And, I think one of the things, now as a 28-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
obviously I'm much older than that, Andy. So like, when I was playing two sports at the university level, there was no NIL, right? There was like, we
Oh
were, we
yeah.
were not paid. And it was frustrating, right? Because, when you're on
Mm-hmm.
the cover of the school newspaper for the game winning hit and they want to advertise the exciting ball game last night, like, it's like, hey man, if they sell 3 jerseys at the bookstore, hey, like, can I pick up $20 per jersey? Like, like not then, there was no money on that. So, the football thing was a huge deal because there was a lot of money going around. And so now you realize
Sure.
that, hey, yep, you got me? Can you hear me?
Did I lose you?
Yep, maybe for a second. I can hear you okay, Andy. We have you fine. Um, reflect on the money now that you've got to raise. The NIL experience is something that's really important to these athletes, these Olympic athletes,
Mm-hmm.
because you have an opportunity using your social, using your partnerships with these brands that are super excited to be a part of USA. Obviously, you're returning back to Lake Placid, which is the scene of the 1980 hockey team. This is an incredible area.
Yes.
It holds a near and dear just element of our history in its heart of Americans, right? And
Mm-hmm.
people who want to partner with Andy Whittier can do that easily on his site, andywhittier.com, projectpushtogoal.com. All tax deductible, everything is a write off. It's a great way, as you heard Andy market 3 different of his partnerships and companies. It's a great way to get your brand out there and be a part of the Olympic movement, which is super exciting. I always love to be a part of organizations and movements that are for the greater good. I got involved early on in helping be a part of the crowdfunding program of The Chosen. Knew
Mm-hmm.
some Colorado folks very well there with Jerry Jenkins and Dallas Jenkins. And so, what a cool way to fund. And, we're getting more creative for the USA Olympic team, but like, do not hesitate to reach out to andywhittier.com or projectpushtogoal.com and support Andy in his trek on his Olympic hopeful here route through Lake Placid, New York, and all his training, which
Yeah.
will again begin on May 1st. So life changes on May 1st. Walk us through a little bit, Andy, about once you get into what's the daily look of an Olympian out in Lake Placid, the
Yeah.
training, what's required, and walk us through maybe a little bit also on backing through the timeline. When the Olympics are going to be, when's the team going to be named? When do you have to
Mm-hmm.
go? All those good things.
Yeah, and I want to put a little bit of clarity because I don't want to disrespect any Olympians. So we consider ourselves Olympic hopefuls until you've
Mhm.
gone to a game. And I know
That's
that's
right.
kind of just a more niche thing for us. And we do appreciate calling us the Olympians and everything. But in our world, we're Olympic hopefuls until we've made that connection,
Yeah.
until we've
Thank
made it
you.
to the top, right? Yeah,
Good
absolutely.
clarity. Good
Um,
clarity. I mean, it's a real honor to
yeah,
wear the star stripes. Like, listen, and that's and many
yeah,
people are gunning for it, just like all of our top leagues in this country,
yes,
right? It is
exactly.
not easy just to even make it into that league. And so,
Hmm.
to get a uniform on that team, we know you're striving for that, Andy. And this will be your first, if you were to make that team, this would be your first time as an Olympian, right? So
Correct.
we appreciate that. And you've been on this journey. So walk us through a little bit of
Yeah.
the daily training in Lake Placid.
Yeah, so we're still waiting to get our exact training, what we're going to do this summer, but I'm going to base what we do off of last summer. So we train 5 days a week. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it is breakfast at 7 a.m. By 8 or 8:30, we're doing sprints and plyometrics for about an hour to an hour and a half. After that, we get some protein in us, take a quick power nap. We go to lunch at about 11:30, 12. Let that digest. Right after that, we're right into the weight room from 1 to 3, and it's full tilt go. Like it's not lift a weight, sit down and talk. Like it's a regimented workout. Here's the percentages. Here's the power output. Here's how fast you need to be moving this bar. It's in order, moving like that. So we do that 1 to 3, get some more protein in us, get another shower. Dinner's at 5. We're at dinner, and now we're just hanging out as a team. Uh, After that, probably 7, 8 o'clock, get some hot tea, some collagen, relaxing, and then we start playing some board games, stuff like that. Keep it light, um, and then 9 o'clock is basically bedtime. 9:30, you're going to bed because you've got another hard day of training coming up those next 2 days or that week, and so on Tuesday and Thursday, that's when we have our core circuits, kind of mid morning, right into some pool recovery, sometimes Pilates as well. And then on Tuesday and Thursday nights after dinner, we'll do some relaxation yoga and stretching as well. And that's Monday through Friday. And then
Yeah.
usually the weekends or some of our nights that we can, we'll pick up some serving jobs or whatever may be available, like we talked about, self-funded and everything. And so it's basically a seven day work week. Monday through Friday we're training. The weekends we're working, trying to make money for the upcoming season. And that's what summer consists of. We'll train in 4 to 5 period or week blocks, a week off with light training in between, and then just do that throughout the entire summer, leading up to our and then this is kind of where our season starts, leading into our national push championships, sometime in early October ish. And then we'll go into preseason sliding, kind of get our heads adjusted back to the ice, the speed, how it's all going to flow together. Usually we go to either Lillehammer, Norway, Whistler, Canada, Park City, Utah, just kind of what tracks have ice and depending on weather. Big contingency with that one. That'll go right into our second team selections, which is just a race against ourselves or our teammates to see where we rank and which circuit we're gonna be put on for the season. After that, your World Cup, European Cup, North American Cup, whatever, however you placed. From there, that's when you race your ass off all season. You do your best, you stay disciplined, you do your job, right? And then, since we are going into Olympic year, on January 21st is the naming date or the cutoff date, as we'll say. Whoever on Team USA has the most points, so let's say we get 2 sleds qualified for Cortina, Italy in February. Whoever the top 2 athletes are for the men and women, that's who's going to represent us in February in Italy. So
Wow.
yeah,
It's a
it,
big
it
year. It's
feels,
a big year.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
This is go time. Now, when
Mhm.
you talk about the summer training, I don't hear a lot of skill work. I know obviously even in
Yeah.
upstate New York, there's no ice, right? In July, August. But we've also seen a lot of track work on rollers. We've seen a lot of cement track. Like,
Hmm.
is there an ability to still do skill work, video review? Are you guys still doing that in the off season,
Yes.
or is this really physical mental focus?
So it's heavy on the physical side, but we are still handling kind of ourselves with the mental video preparation, point of view, laying on our sleds, phone or computer in front of us, watching the track, and then we'll take track notes throughout there, kind of draw the pressures and where we want to be in the curves and corrections and stuff. But some of that stuff changes depending how the ice is cut and shaped. So you have a general idea, and then you make adjustments when you get to those tracks.
Yeah.
And like you're talking about the skill wise, Lake Placid is amazing for this reason. We have an outside dry land push track,
Yep.
which is basically on rails. So when I say a push track, it's just the start, it goes down over the crest and gradient, and then back up, and that's it, because that's all you can really work.
Okay.
And then we have one that's also at Mount Van Hovenberg, which is where our track is at from 1980s. Uh, and that is an indoor ice house. So we do actually have the ability to run on ice during the summer, because there is a drastic difference between pushing a rail sled where it's locked in, it's not coming out of the grooves, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
running on uh, Mondo compared to running on ice, because
Yeah.
your form has to adjust and be perfect on ice. Otherwise, you're popping a groove, you're misstepping, you're too wide, you're doing a
Yeah.
lot of things that are going to cost you a lot of time. So that's where a lot of our skill base comes from. Taking all that power and everything we created in the gym and transitioning it back over to those skills.
I love it. I love it. I see this now in the gym. The push sleds are very common in the gyms now, right? Like it's
Yep.
like super. Everybody wants it. I didn't see that 20 years ago, right? Everybody wants to do
Right.
push sled, and I'll tell you, it absolutely tackles the body, man. I mean, the body is
Oh,
like getting into it. Like, man, there's not a lot. There's not a lot of other training things I do that I'm like, dang, man, this thing gets at the body, right? And
yeah.
so let's talk about top speed on a skeleton. When you are on an
Yeah.
ice track, what is your top speed on the skeleton?
Yeah. So that's a really cool thing about our sport is you have athletes who are it differs from track to track. You have athletes who are really good manipulating the sled around big, long, swooping pressures where have a lot of G forces, which
Yeah,
are some tracks, and some tracks are really quick, tight curves. And so there's not two tracks that are exactly the same. So you have to be a multifaceted athlete, you could say. So not all speeds are the same. Every track is built different, and I prefer high speed, heavy G force tracks where you can really just let the sled do its job. So Park City, Utah, we're doing 83 miles an hour there on nice ice, nice runners. You're cooking.
yeah,
Uh, in Lake Placid, New York, a little more technical track, a lot of tight curves, a lot of tight
yeah,
turns. You're only doing mid 70s, 72, 76, somewhere in there. Um, Fastest track in the world is up in Whistler, Canada, where the 2010 games were held. You are doing on a really good line, good ice, you're going to do 89 miles an hour there. And to put that in perspective, in Canada, you're going to pull 6 to 7 Gs going around some of those curves. In Park City, you're going to pull 4 to 5, and then Lake Placid, you're somewhere probably in the 3 range. Oh, they cut out. Oh, man. Dang. Why didn't this just cut out? Oh, it just shows me. Mm-hmm.
Hey, here we go. Man, I'm
There
so
we go.
sorry
Now we're back.
for the technical difficulty. My whole Wi-Fi just,
Uh,
it's like, I don't know,
uh,
having power issues at this house, like the week. And clocks, yeah, and I was gone, but like I keep noticing clocks are all flashing, right? So I think it just cut my power. I had to
yeah.
flip over to my phone Wi-Fi, so I apologize. we were discussing Whistler and the fastest track in the world. You said how fast is that again?
Yeah. So for skeleton, we're doing 89 miles an hour. Like top
Oh,
line, like you're gonna be cruising through there. Like you go into the final curve, you're gonna hit your top G forces. You're gonna pull 6 to 7 Gs in Whistler, which is your head. You're not picking your head up till you cross the finish line.
yeah.
Park City, Utah, for reference, is also we're only pulling 4 to 5 Gs there. So yeah, you're pulling a lot of G's through some of these curves, and it's
For people that don't know, Andy, like let's
yeah,
talk about like, we all watch Top Gun and we love it.
yes,
Like, and they're like, "Oh, you're going to dive out of this thing and you're going to be pulling over 9 Gs, right?" Like 9 Gs is the equivalent of 2,000 pounds on your body, right? Like, so
yeah.
how does it, after you go through a race like that and you put all this pressure on from this G force, how does your body feel post runs?
So, and that's something really cool that kind of affects our training as well. When we're training or racing, right? You got a lot of adrenaline no matter what, because going those speeds that
Yeah.
fast, like you're gonna flood with it.
Yeah.
But it really only allows us 2 to on max 4 runs a day or a training session, because at some point your neck isn't going to be able to hold itself up, and
Yeah.
because that's where everything goes is you're like this and then like this and like this, and then eventually you're just stuck like this because this muscle is just, I'm gassed, I'm not going to help you out
Yeah.
anymore. um, yeah, and so that really affects. So that's when we say we're going to train all these hours, all this time for 2 minutes of training or 2 minutes of on ice training.
Yeah.
And so that what we work our necks over the summer to try and help us prepare for that. But
Yeah.
there's only so much you can do because G forces, they're going to crush you. You can't pick your head up against a couple thousand pounds of pressure until it
Right.
releases, and then you come out of there. And it's not like you get to see the whole track in skeleton. Your head is up, I can see my entrance, and then you go in and your head goes down, you go around, you come out, you get a peak and back down. So it's really a peaking art. I look, I see my A and B scenario that's going to happen, my head goes back down. And one, it has to do with those G forces, and then two, it's also aerodynamics, because if your head's up,
Sure.
that's just wind drag, and that's slow.
Yeah. Feet are a big deal, right? Because I see everybody's toes
Yes.
way out. Like you got to get your feet down. Like don't get your toes
Yeah.
up because your calves are going to be destroyed, right? Because you're going to be getting so much push against that. And by the way, losing speed like crazy. It's like a major drag.
Yeah, 100%. So you want to basically think of yourself like a human bullet, right? You're tucked in as
Yeah.
tight as you can be, but relax at the same time, keeping your feet pointed, keeping them together as slipstream as possible. Because the moment your feet come down and touch the ice, well, that just creates drag. And if you're racing against someone who never touched the ice, they're going to fly past you eventually, right? Like the velocity and time
Yeah.
will catch you. And the more you stop yourself, the slower you're going to be.
Have you wrecked on a skeleton?
Have I wrecked?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, my second rookie camp ever down in Park City. I was getting tossed, still learning the sport and having like just basically like understanding like you gotta be comfortable going this fast, getting thrown down the ice. And I remember I was coming out of curve 12 and I came out way too late. So the curves they're usually I'm gonna say cupped to get you off or
Yeah.
wiped,
Sure.
and
Yep.
then it
Yep.
like goes in, and then it goes into a straight part into a wall, and I was still up on this part where it's straight. You don't want to be up there. I
Yeah.
slammed off, I went into curve 13, and the sled went flying, and then I ended up on my butt and just slid down the rest of the track. I'm just like, oh, okay, that was fun. But I'm really thankful that I actually did end up crashing so early in my career, because it made me less afraid of it from then on out, because within 10-15 minutes I just used the term, you got to get back on the bowl and just go again, right?
Yeah.
Can't be
Right.
afraid of it, because at that moment, a lot of people, most people will be like, yeah, I'm not doing this, I just wrecked doing 70 miles an hour, right? And
Yeah.
so because it's not like we wear pads, you mentioned, it's just a skin tight suit. It's not like we got a lot of stuff to protect us.
No, there's nothing. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So some of
Oh,
us will wear
that's
like
awesome, man.
shoulder pads and stuff, because it's you're gonna hit some walls doing 80, and you're like, man, I gotta have something there. But race days and stuff, it's all off because you want to be limber and as aerodynamic as possible.
I love it. I love it, man. Well, for everybody out there, Winners Find a Way show, another great show. Andy Whittier, USA skeleton athlete, Andy out of Pocatello, Idaho, making a bid for our Olympic skeleton team. Super excited for Andy's journey. We're going to follow this closely on the Winners Find a Way show. Hopefully give you a couple updates along the way. He'll return to his training as of May 1st out in Lake Placid as we near a really big year with obviously the Winter Olympics hitting Italy this winter of 2026. And that's going to be just another fabulous time for the USA. So we wish you all the best, Andy, in your trek. Super excited for everybody. Hit Project Push to Gold or andywhittier.com, and you can donate there, be part of Andy's journey, follow closely, get involved, Americans. Like, this is where we are with the Olympics. This is a huge thing for us. We've got athletes competing all over the world in all sorts of different sports. Andy, obviously a Division I football player, but now he competes here looking for a spot on an Olympic team. And we just hope that everybody will rally, get behind Andy and join him in his journey, because it's just a bunch of fun to be involved. And it's one of the highest rated and watched Olympic sports in the winter of all the sports. People love it. So even though probably not mainstream TV for American sport, right? At Olympic time, it really gets a lot of play. So it's pretty exciting to be a little part of it. So we'll hope you join in Andy's journey. Andy, if you've got one thing for people today on the Winners Find a Way show, we've all been on that area where things aren't going the right direction, struggling through things. You've been there before, right? You're building yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
You go through the ups and downs of this journey. What would you tell someone who needs to get back on the upswing right
now? The two things that come to my mind, kind of I live by in my life, are one, there's no bad days, right? Life's too precious to have a bad day. You can have a bad moment. I understand that. Life is way too precious to have a bad day. So find the good in every day. The second is I hate losing more than I enjoy winning. And so you got to find a way to make sure that you always end up on top. Whether that loss is a lesson, find a way to make sure the next time you're in that position, it ends up as a W for you.
Yeah, I hate losing too.
Yeah.
But the winners find a way, right? That's what we do. Andy's always found a way. We love it here on the Winners Find a Way show. Winners, when shown data that they are losing, find a way to win. Andy Whittier, another great example of that for everybody. Thank you for joining us on the Winners Find a Way show every Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, live on YouTube, on our Leadershipity channel, Facebook Live, and LinkedIn Live. And then, of course, our big show drops every Friday morning on all the major podcast networks. You can check it out there. And for me, again, Run Out, Leading Winning Teams, check out my book. You can pick up that at any bookstore, online, anywhere. It's in hardcover, it's in ebook, it's on audiobook. You can find it everywhere. So check that out. And until next time, winners, find a way.